should I call it wife maintenance, as child support and wife maintenance are very crucial. They're all tied to whether the union you had is even considered a union. Of course, now it will be advertised, and then you'll come and object. If you're supposed to object before the 3 weeks, maybe you say that I'm married to this person.
It's also important to note that when you're making an application for a civil wedding, you always have to go with your ID, and the names on your ID have to match.
Or Kalenjin, just all those. Hello and welcome to the Sisters-in-Law podcast. My name is Beverly Mokaya and I'm here with
Aquila Mokaya. In this podcast, we discuss matters law.
From navigating inheritance laws and family law, to talking about contracts and dealing with litigation matters, to talking about major developments in law that you're better off knowing about. We've got you covered.
Remember to like, share, subscribe, and comment down below. So in this episode, we are going to be responding to a DM that we got regarding our previous episode on the issue of unlawful termination. So the question was on majorly whether physical incapacity, whether someone being fired on the basis of physical incapacity amounts to unlawful termination. So in response to this question, we are going to discuss, there's a matter that was discussed at the Supreme Court sometime a few years ago on this same issue of physical incapacity and whether it amounts to unlawful termination. So let's call this guy Clouds. So Clouds was working at an organization as somebody who used to load stuff on like a lorry. He got into an accident. His spinal cord had an issue, so he went for surgery on the same to be able to see if they can rectify or not. So when he came back from the surgery, he did not go immediately back to work, of course, because he needed to recuperate and whatnot. So after he got back from the hospital, he recuperated for a while, went back to work. He was asked for the medical report by his employer. He delayed to give the medical report, but eventually he still gave the medical report. So he was fired on the basis that he was not able to load the stuff on the lorry, because that was what his job description was about. In this matter, the court decided that being terminated on the basis of physical injury amounts to indirect discrimination. So we are going to break down what would not lead to unlawful termination from the part of the employer.
Yeah, so in this case, if you are the employer, say for example, like you said, this guy used to load stuff on a lorry. That was his job description, whatever name that would be called, yeah. And after getting the accident, his spine, he got a spinal injury, and he couldn't probably walk anymore. Maybe he was in a wheelchair, so there's no way this guy would be able to load things on top of the lorry. So in this case, as an employer, what you need to do, first of all, you need to make the necessary accommodations. This is what that decision you're talking about mentioned. You need to make the necessary accommodations for this person to be able to still work within the organization. For example, he was under contract, right? So maybe you would ask him, is there anything else that he can do? For example, can he sit behind a computer and do something? Maybe key in the stock as it comes in, and as it's sold. So in the event that he's unable to do that, then you will give him a notice of a fair hearing,
where the employee got into an accident and he's physically incapacitated. The employer is required by law to have to shift things in the office in a way to fit them into their schedule. For example, you can change the working hours. The employer can change the working hours for this specific employee. The employer can maybe fix a ramp if they only had like stairs or something and this guy is on a wheelchair. And then also the employer can transfer this employee to another department if they are fit to work there. Like if so, like in this case, if this guy was computer literate, they can be moved to go and work on the computer as opposed to loading. So in the instance that this guy's job is affecting your business as an employer, now you are able to terminate their contract. However, the right to fair hearing in this case is compulsory, in the sense that you are supposed to do an independent medical assessment. Because you remember I said earlier that the employee must bring the medical report. So the employer should do an independent medical assessment to assess the health of this guy, just so he cannot be unfair. And then now the guy is supposed to be called for a fair hearing before termination. So in the instance where you just terminate because you have done a medical assessment and you found out that this guy is unfit for this job and you terminate them, it amounts to unfair termination and they can sue for damages. Yeah, I hope that was helpful.
Yeah. Okay, so now that we've answered the question, I think we can get into what we're supposed to tackle in this episode. And we want to talk about marriages. It's very important. It's a very dicey topic, but it's very important because the sharing of matrimonial property, things like inheritance law, child maintenance, should I call it wife maintenance, as child support and wife maintenance are very crucial. They're all tied to whether the union you had is even considered a union under the Kenyan laws. Yeah. So we thought it would be very important for us to tell you more about the kind of marriages that you can contract in this jurisdiction. Yeah, so of course the first one is the normal church wedding. Yeah. Where you go to church, you first of all, before you even go to church, you have to register before. Like you have to register before because it has to be advertised for 21 days.
Yeah.
Now there's that thing of if anyone is is objecting to if anyone is objecting to this marriage, let them stand up or lift their hand. It's not there anymore because they usually give a 3 weeks notice. Yeah. So if you don't come between that 3 weeks when this marriage has been advertised, then you can't come on the wedding day and say, oh, I was so like of course now it will be advertised, and then you'll come and object. If you're supposed to object before the 3 weeks, maybe you say that I'm married to this person. I think those are the grounds of objection. You can't come and say, and I have a certificate, a marriage certificate with him, because it's illegal to contract another marriage if you're already married under the law with someone. So after the 3 weeks period is over, you go to church, get married, get your marriage certificate, and that's it. That's the normal church wedding, and it can be in church or
at the AG's office,
at the
Attorney
AG's.
General.
Look, okay, I was going to say it can be in church or in the mosque. It's it doesn't have to be in church. Christian wedding or in the temple. Yeah, so it can be in church or at the mosque or at the temple. That's the religious one. There's also the option where you go to the AG, where you don't want to spend so many, the Attorney General, where you don't want to spend a lot of money on expenses and stuff. You can just go. It's let's say I checked, it was 1770. 1770. Yeah, you pay just 1,770 shillings, but I think maybe it has been revised because a lot of fees have been revised. So you pay that amount and you just go to the AG after, of course, advertising again for a period of 3 weeks, and then the office of the Attorney General will, not necessarily the AG himself, but the office of the Attorney General will marry you guys, and you will have your birth certificate, and it's a valid wedding, a valid marriage union.
It's also important to note that when you're making an application for a civil wedding, you always have to go with your ID, and the names on your ID have to match the names on your birth certificate. Like that's also very important. And then also, as you go to the AGs, there's always the step of an interview
Oh yeah, by the
where
way.
the marriage officer, like the officer at the ages, is supposed to interview to see if there's any minor, if you're a minor, or because
Yeah.
if you're a minor, they would not allow you to get into marriage, because in marriage you must have the capacity to contract
So you
a
have to be
marriage.
18 and above, like we keep saying in these episodes. You have to be 18 and above for you to. That's the legal consenting age in Kenya. So in addition to that, we have a customary wedding, whereby it's just a traditional wedding. Let's say you get married under Kikuyu customary law or Kisi customary law or Kalenjin, just all those the koitos and rurashios, yeah. So that in itself is actually enough to marry you guys, like to say that you are married legally under law.
Yes.
Except that nowadays you have to register. Nowadays there's a requirement that after you have done your traditional wedding, if you don't intend
To do
on doing a civil one in church or at the AGs, you still have to go and register that customary marriage, the customary So for this marriage to be legit, there has to be payment of dowry for the cases that are in court, like have been decided in court. There have to be evidence that dowry has been paid.
It must not be a huge amount. It's just a
token. Yeah. And then that all the rights of the marriage rights of that community have been followed. Now, I'm not very familiar with the marriage rights of any community, but you would find, like, maybe, for example,
the ones that you take blankets or what, I don't know.
Yeah, like all the marriage rights, yeah. So you have to also do the marriage rights of that specific community. For example, if you're a Kikuyu, you'd be better placed to know. Or if you're a Kisi, you'd be better placed to know what marriage rights are supposed to be followed. It would do you a lot of good if you have someone in the premises writing minutes. So you say minutes for this session of whatever. It's just for evidence, yeah.
I almost said koito.
Yeah, minutes of even if it's a koito or a rurashio or whatever
ceremony.
Yeah, for that ceremony for this on this such and such a date, you have to write that this members present, like just normal minutes, because in the event that this thing is contested in court, you would want to bring the minutes as evidence to show that there was actually a customary marriage that occurred between the two of you. Then now there's this very tricky type of marriage,
murky waters,
that is not under the system. It's not considered, it's not
a civil or a
it's
traditional.
not a civil or a traditional. It's not like under any legal system. It's presumed out of facts. Yeah, it's actually a presumption of marriage. Exactly.
Yeah,
it's a presumption of marriage in the event where we call it come we stay. Yeah, in the event that, let's say, for example, a man has decided to take a woman
to live with them.
You're just living with them. People around you are assuming that you're married, you have children together, but you never really formalized anything.
Yeah, you hold yourself out as a married couple. Either friends or neighbors can attest that you guys are married.
Yeah,
like you must hold yourself out as a married couple. Yeah.
And the period, must it be long cohabitation?
No, it must not be. Initially, it was meant to be a long period of staying together. But right now, it's not like a long period. 6 months, I think, can suffice.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, so long as there's a child.
Also, if there's an issue, like a
Yeah,
child.
cause issues, legal terms.
So if there's a child in this union now, that is cohabitation, it's also proof that you guys have been married.
Yeah.
I had discussed earlier that regardless of the type of marriage, you'd still inherit as long as you can prove blah 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 blah. But on proving on issues like divorce, for example, you do not have any legal solution in law in terms of matrimonial property. Yeah. So it's very important to register your marriage.
Yeah, because if it's not registered, once you divorce, like when once party is divorced, you're supposed to share out the matrimonial property.
Yeah.
So if you have not registered the marriage, what are you?
Is it a marriage?
Yeah, like is it
what
really
is the
a marriage?
matrimonial property? Yeah.
So now it's very important. In fact, some judges are kicking out cases where, like, we're trying to move away from cohabitation and move away from customary marriages that have not been registered.
Yeah.
So whichever way, like if you have a man and you probably the man, you're seeing a future with the man, or the man is seeing a future with you, it's better to just put it on record.
Mm.
Go to the registrar of marriages, register your marriage. And if you got married a long time ago and a customary marriage, or you've been cohabiting for a long time, you can still go right now. The
And
only
have
thing
it
you will need,
registered. Mm-hmm.
you'll need an affidavit
To prove the marriage.
to say that so and so we X and Y of ID numbers X and Y, we got married under, let's say for example, Kisi customary law or Giriama customary law, and we have this number of children. So we are swearing this affidavit to authorize the registrar of marriages to register this
as a marriage.
Yeah, so that you can, in the event that there's a divorce, you can get your matrimonial property. In the event that there's succession, you don't have to go again to court to prove, just explaining to the judge, oh, we were cohabiting, oh, we had children, yeah.
I think it's also important to note that you can contract a subsequent customary marriage, but you cannot contract a subsequent civil marriage, because on the other side, it leads to an offense of bigamy.
Oh, exactly, by the way, because when you, like we said, if you already, we said in our previous episode, once you have gotten married and you have a marriage certificate, you can't contract another
marriage. It leads to an offense of bigamy.
Yeah.
So it's important to note that when your spouse dies and you need to remarry, as you go to the AGs, you need to attach the death certificate of the spouse, whether it's a woman or a man, before you're allowed.
Yeah, so when you get a man and you want to settle down, just go the normal way. You can go to the AG if you can't afford a big white wedding. You can also go the customary way. Just don't do come with stay, because it has a lot of complications. In the event that you're in such a situation, you can just make the application, go to the AG, get it registered. It doesn't take so long.
Yeah, and it's also online right now.
Yeah, and all systems are now online. So this episode was short and sweet. Yeah. Thank you for watching. If you go to the end of this episode, which I suspect you have, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, and see you next time. Bye.
Bye.